Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Approve the agenda. We need a motion to approve the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Board members' appreciation. All in favor?
So we're going to start the meeting out. First of all, thank you all for being here. We did adjust to an earlier start time, so we'll see how that works. And we want to just start out. This is Board Member Appreciation Month, so we do have a proclamation that is typically read every year to recognize the Board of Education for their contribution and dedication to the students in the school district. So the proclamation reads, whereas a system of quality public education is essential to the future of our state and nation, and whereas the people of Missouri have a long tradition of support for public education and their local school districts, and whereas local school boards are the ultimate expression of the unique American institution of representative governance of public school districts, and whereas local school boards acting on behalf of and in close connection with the people of their communities chart the direction of education in their communities, and whereas local school boards serve as the key community advocate for children, youth, and the public schools. Now therefore I, Jeremiah W.J. Nixon, Governor of the State of Missouri, do hereby proclaim January 24th through 30th, 2016 to be School Board Recognition Week in Missouri, and urge all Missourians to recognize school boards as they strive with their communities to improve our public schools through quality leadership. In testimony whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the great seal of the state of Missouri and the city of Jefferson the 2nd day of December 2015. So we would like to formally recognize you and thank you for your service, and of course our city member Colonel Sparks as well. So thank you.
Approve consent agenda. We approve the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any public comments or correspondence? Whiteman report.
Yes, good evening, and thank you as always for inviting Whiteman to be part of your district school board proceedings. Whiteman enjoyed a relatively quiet holiday season, though many of our airmen continued their preparations for a large number of deployments that have begun with the new year. In fact, we said farewell to 24 of our warriors Christmas night, as they were among those asked to depart early. Additionally, rolling right out of the new year, Air Force Global Strike Command and 8th Air Force selected Whiteman to demonstrate our mission capabilities through a no-notice, full operational readiness exercise. This exercise was equal in scope to the 2 large-scale events we execute in the spring and fall. Despite occurring on top of an already busy operations schedule with many of our teammates deployed, your military neighbors once again demonstrated why yours is the best Air Force's best bomb wing in the world's best Air Force. This said, our school and community are likely to see some proud but tired students and families. As always, we thank both the community and the schools for their support. Whiteman is also hosting our Air Force Global Strike Command Commander, General Robin Rand, for a visit this week. In fact, Dr. Wheeler was able to join us for a lovely dinner with the General and many other local civic leaders last night, and we're certainly happy to have Dr. Wheeler dine with us for this important base event. Finally, I would like to publicly thank Dr. Krista Lorenz, Mr. Michael Fisk, and Mr. Matt Cleveland for their selfless and professional work for the school district and wish them all the best in their future endeavors. Additionally, I would like to laud each of them for their partnership in fostering a close and effective relationship between the school district and Whiteman Air Force Base. I personally enjoyed many great discussions and activities with Dr. Lorenz that directly and positively impacted not just military kids, but all non-Noster students. We are proud of what we accomplished together regarding the mentorship program, military parent and faculty dialogue, AP classes, STEAM initiatives, new student welcome programs, and much more. Whiteman remains steadfast in our commitment to be strong partners with the district. With recent changes to the school board and administration, we have prepared a list of ongoing school issues and concerns from the base that we want to make sure we continue to have as a topic of discussion between us. I provided this list to Dr. Wheeler and Ms. Matthews today in hopes of sustaining the partnership momentum that has been hard-earned and well built over the last couple of years. Thank you.
I'd also like to thank you for the invite last night. Christina Brandt and myself had a very nice evening. It was quite the experience. And I just want to respond as well. We're in a great position with a unifying partnership with our base. We want to continue that. And as we've spoken, I've also spoken on a couple of occasions already this semester with our administrative team regarding our ongoing partnership. And I've asked for a call to action with the team in the month of February to begin drafting a written strategic plan that will help us continue the hard work that been accomplished in the last 18 months and then forge a path for improvement in the future. So we're looking very forward to that, and your comments are very much appreciated.
I want to thank you for your correspondence, Colonel Sparks. The Valdosta School District values our ongoing partnership with the family of Whiteman Air Force Base. As we've had several conversations with the members of Whiteman Air Force Base in the last several weeks, we've spent time discussing the continuing opportunities, improving our services to our military-connected families. And we look forward to continuing our partnership with you. MSBA report.
So we're going to give this a shot. We're doing a little bit of a different approach on our agenda, so we'll be pulling up items throughout the course of the meeting. And if this works, great. If not, we'll have it queued up for next week. But there's some important content in this MSBA report, so we're going to go ahead and do that.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Missouri School Boards Association's board report for the month of January. We thank you for the opportunity to share some news and information during a few minutes of your board meeting. We begin with a look at the Every Student Succeeds Act. While Congress has passed and President Obama has signed into law ESSA, replacing the No Child Left Behind law, there remains much work on both the federal and state level to develop regulations, rules, and policies that will guide the implementation of the law. MSBA Executive Director Melissa Randall says work on the law is only halfway done.
The law was a big hurdle to get over, but we also now have to have the regulations that fill in the blanks. You know, the law created new terms, so we have to be able to define those terms and figure out the nuts and bolts of the implementation. So the regulatory process is very important. The timing of this, I think, will be very interesting because we have one administration at the federal level that will be leading in a year and has a lot of interest in seeing a number of those regulations complete before their term is over. And if you remember with No Child Left Behind, it took us about 4 years to get all the regulations in place, and that was very difficult for us at the local level, and I think it will be much speedier this time.
Here are some major provisions of the new law. It maintains annual assessments in grades 3 through 8 and high school. It reaffirms that states are in control of standards and assessments. It sets parameters for accountability systems, but gives states flexibility to design their own accountability system. And it gives states flexibility to determine how educators should be evaluated and supported each year. And it gives states the opportunity to research new methods of measuring student progress from year to year. Another important provision of the new federal law emphasizes the importance and value of the local school board voice in establishing education policy. Missouri currently operates under a waiver from the No Child Left Behind law, but that waiver expires on August 1st. ESSA is to be fully implemented beginning in the 2017-18 school year. We plan to devote some significant time to the implementation of the new ESSA law at the MSBA Legislative Forum scheduled for February 16th in Jefferson City. Registration information for the Legislative Forum is on the MSBA website. The Missouri General Assembly gets back to work this month as the 2016 session convenes. Already there have been numerous bills filed that could have an impact on our schools. MSBA Associate Executive Director for Advocacy, Mike Reed, says school board members can and should have a significant role in the consideration of state legislation.
An extremely important role. It's very important that our members talk to the representatives and senators about how the actions in Jefferson City affect the local school districts. How does what they do in Jefferson City have an effect on the students and on the operation of the school district? Cutting taxes in Jefferson City may raise taxes in the country because there's only so much money and it takes money to run a school district. So it's extremely important that our members keep asking us questions and follow us on this program as well as any other ways that we have in all of our meetings, because the best lobbyists that we have are our local members talking to their elected officials.
MSBA plans to do even more this session to keep you informed about legislative developments. We'll be providing you with up-to-the-minute developments in Jefferson City this year through our Twitter feed. So be sure to follow MSBA on Twitter for the latest information regarding committee hearings, floor action, and other developments. Once again, we'll be sending members our Legislative Voice electronic newsletter on Fridays during the session, and we'll be posting our daily legislative update blog on the MSBA website. We encourage members to visit Jefferson City during our School Board Advocacy Network Days during the 2016 session. Check the MSBA website for your region's SBAN Visit Day. The MSBA Governance Team Award recognizes school boards and their superintendent for commitment to continuous improvement through ongoing professional development, regional and statewide leadership, and active participation in legislative advocacy for public schools and the students they serve. All criteria must be met by May 1st to be recognized at the 2016 Leadership Summit on June 4th. You can check your district status on the criteria of the award by examining each board member's transcript of attendance and credits under account information on the MSBA website. Governor Nixon has declared January 24th through 30th this year as School Board Recognition Week. It's a great opportunity for communities to honor local school board members who provide leadership to our local school districts throughout the state. Check the MSBA website for resources related to School Board Recognition Week. That's it for this month's edition of the MSBA Board Report. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and so long from Columbia.
All right. So it's a lot of excitement in Jefferson City, and usually that's packed into that MSBA board report. Some of that content is also included in the materials that were provided in the curriculum director report in terms of how we're responding here locally, as well as in my administrative report. So just wanted to pass that out, and again, do take time to read through those materials in those reports, as they are pretty important.
Curriculum report. Are there any questions?
So again, included in the curriculum director report was kind of an overview of curriculum, overview of STEAM, as well as a current draft of remaining PD activities for the school year, and also an initial draft of our response of how we will be responding to the new Missouri Learning Standards throughout the upcoming year. So those are in draft form, but we did want to get those in front of you at this time.
Administrative report.
Okay, so for attendance, we're pleased to report for December, our high school is at a 95.85%, middle school is at 95.93%, K&E was 95.36, Whiteman 94.95 for an aggregate of 95.52% for attendance. So for December, that's great. And it looks like Ms. Scarborough and her students and team get the gold star this month. So keep up the great work. And to all of our principals, we do appreciate that. January and February always present challenges for our students. So hopefully we can keep them healthy and keep them in school. So thank you.
I heard there were baked goods involved. Whatever works.
So our financial reports ending December 30th, 2015, our ending balances for the month were $9,427,199. Our revenues for the year were 35.1% of budgeted, and expenditures were 37% of anticipated. January local revenues, we did just get those in the last couple. Actually, today was our big payment. We came in at our local taxes of right at 1.6 million. We did receive 200,000 in delinquent taxes earlier this month. So we are trending compared to last year favorably. We are going to keep an eye on that local assessed railroad and utilities income, which will be new this year due to the pipeline. But so far it looks good, and we may be up slightly in our local revenues. A couple of things, I won't review what was shared in the MSBA report, but in your packet, we do have just a basic press release on the Missouri Board of Education on their way in on Every Student Succeeds Act. So take a look. The main takeaway on that is that we will have returning increased local control, which will be great. And I think Clint dropped by and told me today that they may be loosening up on some of the nutritional guidelines as well and sending some of that back to local discretion. So that may help with some of our meals. Also, next in your packet was an update on the proposed Missouri Learning Standards. Again, in the curriculum packet, there was an overview of some of our response to that in the upcoming year in draft form. Important to note is that will go in front of the board for formal approval at the March meeting, so we will report back on that. Next on the list was just a fact sheet, a white paper on the Missouri professional learning communities. Noster School District has implemented several components of the PLCs, and it's important to note, I thought it was worth including as you look at the comparing data for Missouri PLC schools versus the rest of the state. There is a significant increase in the index scores for math and communication arts. So we will be sending Ms. Morris and her leadership team will be going to the Powerful Learning Conference later this month, and we're glad to see their leadership continuing to strengthen our local PLC. Next in was the board bulletin for MSBA. I want to just last but not least note that's coming up at the end of March, and I'm pleased to say that myself, Dr. Olofsson, Ms. Scarborough, Dr. Wilhoit, and Ms. Mellon will be presenting at that conference. We've been accepted, so we're looking forward to that. And, you know, it was hard to drag them out of their buildings, but I think we can maybe get them away for at least a portion of a day to go over and present some of the good things going on in our district. So we're excited about that, and that wraps up the report. I think we need 5 to 7 chaperones, so you guys are welcome to go. And jokes aside, of all the conferences that are offered throughout the year, I do find the content in that conference to be pretty strong and definitely worth the time to attend. So if you are available, the weather's turning nice at that time of year, and we'd love to have you attend. So just please let Katie or myself know. It's not in Hawaii, but it's at the next best place, which is Lake of the Ozarks.
You don't get out much.
The dates are March, I believe March 31st. I'll get the, I believe it's in that packet, but if not, I'll get that out to you.
Okay. Under new business, approval of bills requiring discussion. Action required. The motion to approve the bill. Right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. B, approval of bills. Motion to approve the bills.
We have to buy all them forks and spoons for the cafeteria.
Yes, sir.
I do not understand. Okay. Hope we didn't buy them, we had them.
Motion to approve bills.
Motion approved.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Board members' resignations. You have that in our board packet.
So in the board agenda item detail, I'm just going to go ahead and read through this process for the benefit of the attendees. When it becomes necessary for the Board of Education to appoint, actually, I'm a step ahead of myself. That's for the appointment, excuse me.
Okay, a board member who resigns shall file a letter of resignation with the board secretary, who will forward it to the board and the list on the agenda for the next board meeting. This item serves as formal notice of resignation received by the Secretary of Board from member Michael Fisk and member Matt Cleveland. Motion to accept resignation from Michael Fisk and declare a vacancy.
Motion to accept the resignation and declare vacancy. I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to accept resignation from Matt Cleveland and declare vacancy.
Motion to accept the resignation of Matt Cleveland and declare vacancy.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
No, I think just.
So when it becomes necessary for the Board of Education to appoint one or more members of the Board of Education, the following procedures will be used. And just as a point of clarification, I know there was an article in one of the local papers that talked about the engagement of the commissioner in appointment of board members. And that involvement of the commissioner is triggered when there are 3 or more vacancies. So it was a little bit misleading. So I wanted to clarify that. And when it is less than 3, then this is the process that would be used. Notification process: the fact that a vacancy exists or will exist will be announced at the next board meeting. Local newspapers will also be notified. In a case of resignation, a vacancy shall be declared to exist when the Board of Education votes to accept a member's letter of resignation, which just occurred. In a case of removal from office, a vacancy shall be declared to exist when the Secretary of the Board certifies to the Board that a vacancy exists. Residents wishing to be appointed to the vacancy shall make their desire known by sending a letter to the Secretary of the Board stating their qualifications and their reasons for wishing to be on the board. A period of 2 weeks from the date of the announcement will be allowed for receipt of these letters. Then there's a review interview process. The letters received will be reviewed by the Board of Education at the next regularly scheduled board meeting or at a special meeting called for that purpose. The board may select final candidates from the applicants, and these individuals will be interviewed in open session at a regular or special meeting of the board. The selection process: the appointments will be made in open session at the next board meeting held subsequent to the interview process. Appointments shall be made through a formal motion and seconded and an affirmative vote by the majority of the board. This vote must be held in open session. So there is a proposed timeline for appointment. The declaration of vacancy just occurred tonight. A period of declaration of interest for appointment, 1/20/2016 to 2/4/2016 at 9 a.m. And then a proposed special meeting date for review, interview, and selection on February 10th, 2016 at 6 p.m. or as determined by the board. So per policy, that is the process that would be followed. In this situation, because the 2 resigning board members are the 2 members that were up for election in April, which is basically 2 meetings away, the board could also consider whether or not it feels it is appropriate to go ahead and appoint members at this time. So if you do choose to appoint, this would be the timeline to follow. And if the board chooses, because of the proximity to the election date, not to appoint, I think that would be acceptable.
Well, Dr. Wheeler, given the fact that we have less than 90 days to the election and both individuals were up for re-election, I think we should just forego that and wait until the election, because we've got multiple individuals that have put their names in for the position. And, you know, it could possibly take a month and a half to select anybody. So I'm sure that this process that's on the books is if somebody resigns midterm. say they've got a year left, maybe 2 years left, but less than 90 days, I don't believe this applies.
Well, it could still, I mean, we could still do it. I think it could still do it.
Well, yes, but
It would be tough.
we have had multiple people put their name in it for the positions. And when you have probably, Dr. Wheeler, how many people do we have at this time?
6,
6 individuals.
or excuse me, 7. We had one
I
late,
feel
didn't
like-
we?
I feel like it would be very difficult to choose from that pool of personnel based on the fact that I personally know some of them, and I find all of those folks that are willing to serve the Board of Education as good candidates. So I think we should just forego this, and like I said, we don't even have 90 days left in the election. So.
But and the other thing about it is that it being that the facts there are 6 people that put their names in it, if for 7, one technically. Okay, if we put somebody in now and due to the election, they would be out in 90 days.
That's correct.
There's no sense
I think we should afford to.
continuing with it.
I think we should afford the public the opportunity to vote and pick the persons that are going to be put in those positions. We shouldn't be here to do that for them. If this were a year and a half out from the election or whatever, or a year out from the election, I could understand that. But in this case, I can't understand that. I agree.
Make a motion we forego any choosing of school board candidates at this time and waiting for the election to take place.
Is there any further discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Wait for the election results.
Okay.
Set dates. Have to do that. Set dates and format for the board candidate forum. This is gonna be March. Notice of election and certification of candidates.
So Board Policy BB1 states in part, the notice of election and certification of candidates must be submitted to the election authority by the 10th Tuesday prior to the election in the manner provided by law. After the 10th Tuesday prior to the election, the candidate list may only be modified pursuant to court order in accordance with law. A copy of the ballot language and final list of candidates was provided yesterday after the close of the filing period at 5 p.m. And we need a motion to approve the ballot language as presented. The 7th candidate was Sue Zacharias. So we have Tony Morris, Brent Robles, Larry Bolton, Tom Hughes, Billy William Francis, Morgan Farrell Heidelbrand, and Sue Zacharias. And we had a close call with the weather, but she didn't make it in, and we were happy to see this slate of candidates. So the public definitely has several options.
So we need a motion to approve this.
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion that we approve the notice of election and certification of candidates.
Second motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So now we need to set dates and format for the public, for the board candidate forum.
So prior to the April election, the Noster School District traditionally hosts a board candidate forum. I recommend that the board definitely continue this practice to give the public an opportunity to hear from the candidates. In the past, I have moderated board candidate forums, and I'm happy to do so this year if the board so desires. I propose that a forum be held on March 14th, 2016 at 6 p.m. or as determined by the board. And that date was picked basically to get out in front of spring break and offer that opportunity. There may be some other forums that are held as well by the local media, but that's, I think, a good timeline in advance of the election. I think as listed in the notes, the Noster Elementary cafeteria would be a location where that forum could be held. And the format would include prepared questions regarding governance for the Noster School District, as well as questions presented in writing by attendees.
I make a motion to approve the spring meeting dates as presented.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on this? I know in the past, it's been held at the middle school because of the seating availability there, and a non-biased person has done the mediation on that, but I don't have any problem with if everybody thinks it's going to be enough room in the elementary school, because in the past it's been a big turnout. Okay. So
We can definitely, that was a proposed location. We can definitely do it at the middle school. And in terms of the moderator, I've done it. I've had our local DESI rep come in and do that. I've had a former superintendent do that. Typically the format is pretty much the same, and it is unbiased, but I think the moderation is important to try to keep the tone of the forum positive and focused on important issues to the board. So that's kind of the foundation for that proposed format.
okay. If there's no further discussion on that, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so the next one is set dates for regular spring and special meetings. So we kind of moved the meetings to an earlier time frame, from now until June. And we moved them back a week.
Right. So the proposed this additional week in the month has really been helpful in central office to get through some of our paperwork. So we do appreciate that. We did stick with proposals for staying on Wednesdays. We can definitely determine if the 6 o'clock time is convenient for everyone. So just let us know if you have any feedback on that. The proposed dates would be February 17th, March 16th, and then the exception would be Tuesday, April 19th. And the reason that is moved as an exception is so that our election results can be certified within 14 days of the April 5th election. And then we would have Wednesday, May 18th and Wednesday, June 15th. Also in the note would be the special meetings proposed. The February 10th, we can take that off the list because we've decided not to have the board candidate appointment interviews. And that would leave a June 1st, 2016 budget work session and fiscal year 17 board retreat and work session.
Make a motion, we approve the set dates for the spring meeting dates presented.
I'll second the motion.
What are your intentions for budget work session, board retreat, and work session? You want to discuss that now, or you want to wait?
No, you take us like those.
Or Hawaii.
Yeah.
I don't get out much.
Yeah.
So the June 1st date would basically be to take an extended amount of time for the board to go through the budget. I wanted to set that early in June so that we would have time to make any needed modifications to the budget. So that would be not a final review, but it would be close to final. You would have had opportunity to review the budget before that, but we could go through item by item to make sure that the board is up to speed and feels confident in your understanding of where we are financially. Also, in regard to the retreat, I'd really like to take some time that day to strategically plan for the upcoming school year, give the board an opportunity to express any directives or directions, concerns, changes that you may wish for the upcoming school year. And of course, that's 5 months away, and we will have many conversations between now and then, but just that typically, I've usually run that as a full day retreat with the administrative team for a portion of that, along with the Board of Education. And that agenda would be set jointly by the board and the superintendent.
Okay. We have a motion, made and seconded, all in favor? Aye. Proposed courses and credits.
Okay, so item G. Proposed courses and credits. This was brought forward by our administrative team and director of curriculum. They collaborated to bring forward the recommendations for credit and course changes for the 16-17 school year. Included in your board packet is a written list of proposed changes. The proposed changes regarding credits to be awarded in 8th grade in Algebra 1 and English 1 are being made as a component of the overall strategy to increase rigor in the middle school and high school. Likewise, the credit shifts for principles of engineering and Project Lead the Way are occurring to diversify credit options and strengthen our overall STEAM initiative. The proposed course additions is presented as a matter of routine. These changes are presented to the board for approval so that master schedules may be prepared for the upcoming school year. We will have some upcoming, we do anticipate that we'll have some upcoming changes in regard to our additional advanced placement courses that will be added during the spring. We are waiting for final approval on that grant, which we'll hear more about briefly from Ms. Morris, who is not yet with us.
Why do we need the NMSI grant to institute the course?
What? And that's an agenda item a little bit later down the list, but we can talk about that now. We don't require the grant. I think that's something, and I think our administrative team would agree that the addition of AP courses is just is the right thing to do. It makes a lot of sense for increasing rigor, but the fact that we have the opportunity to do that with a grant is fantastic. That's going to provide some very helpful funding to help our teachers become trained and give some strength and stability to that program. AP, the function of the AP courses, and we do have one currently, I believe, the European history, but this will add a number of additional courses, and the function, especially in this community, it's something I've done in my last couple of districts, so I'm very passionate and think it's the right thing to do, but especially in our military connected community, it's very important for the transfer of those credits as our students come into and out of the district. Those transfer, they're immediately recognized, and there's not, it's just on a transcript, it carries more weight and more universal acceptance than other credits. So it's the right thing to do at the high school level. We can then push additional coursework down into our middle school so that we can get those credits early. And then one of the side bonuses of doing that is when you enter high school, if you do have those credits already on your transcript, we can have those slots open for AP classes, but in some cases it may open up slots for attendance or enrollment in some of our career ed classes. One of the struggles we have in some of those courses is enrollment. So it opens up opportunity to increase enrollment there and strengthen those programs. So I think it's a good thing, and the grant isn't in hand yet, but it's looking good, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes.
Even if we don't get the grant, can we look at the possibility of expanding these classes anyway without it? Or do you just want to wait and talk with it?
Well, I think the grant is the carrot for school districts to do this. So we definitely don't want to, do anything to harm our chances of receiving that. But absolutely, it's business as usual as far as I'm concerned. It needs to happen for our students. And again, we're very hopeful. We feel like we're getting close on the grant. But if we, for some reason, are not able to secure that, that's something that we absolutely want to find a way to implement.
that. I remember in the past, I may be wrong, but if I remember in the past, there were multiple AP courses offered. Because my daughter, she graduated in 2000, and she had multiple, that she had taken and taken credit to college with.
So I can't speak to that. I do know the hierarchy would be your traditional high school credit, and then dual credit coursework, and then AP is kind of the, the upper level. But I can check on that and find out. But currently we don't, and I think we need to do that. So we're very thankful of Mrs. Morris's work on that, and we're keeping our fingers crossed.
Would there be any chance of partnering with some of the local colleges too, with some of these classes?
I might have Ms. Williams speak to that.
That's more dual credit than an AP. The AP would provide training for our teachers to provide the instruction for our students.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Well, right now we're on item G.
So the proposed courses and credits. Do we have a motion? Okay, we need a motion. Anybody?
So those were presented. Algebra 1 requested the change be made so that the high school math credit would be awarded. Right now, we just award credit. So that's the significant change, I believe, for Algebra 1 and English 1. And we have the project Lead the Way and Principles of Engineering in our project Lead the Way curriculum. And then proposed courses, ceramics and painting, Spanish 5, that's Roman, right? Agricultural engineering, introduction to agriculture and sports education. Freshman physical education and health, and introduction to business.
Introduction to agriculture, didn't we withdraw that from middle school this year? Is this just for the high school then? Or are we reinstituting it, or?
We don't quite know yet. We've had some initial discussions about how we're going to align. We do recognize that enrollment in some of our career ed classes is a point of concern, and part of, specifically for agriculture, part of that concern is because it was pulled out of the middle school. So we are talking about how we're going to align that to strengthen that program.
So the introduction to agriculture actually isn't a new program. We're just reinforcing it, or, I mean, wasn't that the original ag program anyway?
It is, but this is basically the high school, and so really what it's doing is combining the two so that it's just a redefinition of the class.
Okay, so but it already exists.
It already exists, it's just a redefinition
Okay.
of it, so,
All right.
and it's at the high school level.
So the introduction to math, are they gonna get a math credit for that?
For algebra 1,
Well, introduction to math. Well, that's on my sheet. It's a semester. I mean, introduction to business, I'm sorry. Are they gonna get a math credit for the introduction to business?
no, it would not be a math credit.
So it's no credit at all.
No, it would be a credit, it would just not be a math credit.
What credit?
It would be one of their, it kind of depends on what they would fill, it would be their career, or it could be an elective,
It's an elective, it's a practical arts,
or practical, yeah,
Okay.
so.
applies for the practical.
I guess where I'm going with this is they're not gonna get an approved credit for it. What are the chances of somebody signing up? for it?
No, it will be an approved credit, it'll just be, it depends, it could be a practical art credit, which the kids have to take, or if they have a practical art credit, it could be an elective credit for the students, which they also have to have some electives. So they would get a credit that counts toward graduation.
I'll make a motion to approve credits and course changes as presented.
I'll second the motion.
Is there any further discussion on that?
Yeah, on the algebra one. The credit count for all high school students or just the ones coming from eighth grade to freshman? Is it gonna count for everybody in the high school? Are they gonna get this out of the credit also? How is that?
So it would be effective next school year. So it would be students that take the credit next year would get the math credit. And prior, for instance, students that are taking it this year would get a credit, but not, is that?
Actually, we're asking that it be retroactive,
Oh.
so that our students who've taken Algebra 1, they've been getting elective credit instead of math credit. And what we found is that when our kids transfer to other districts, or when they go to college, it's creating some havoc because it'll show up as if they didn't take Algebra 1, it's just an elective credit. So we want our kids, when they go to college and when they transfer to other places, to have that be recognized. So we wanted that to be retroactive for all the students who've taken 8th grade Algebra 1 and full prohibition on their EOC, to have that credit. The kids who, we don't really have anybody who's been at 100% proficient or advanced at 8th grade. So we don't have anybody who falls in that range of not having that proficiency. So we would like it to be retroactive so that it shows up as a math credit, and then add verbiage so that those students would then take 3 math credits at the high school level.
So it impacts the freshmen next year. Whether that 8th grade or not.
It would impact all of our
Or
kids who've
transfer
taken it
students, military or
so far.
So it's gonna be retroactive.
Yeah, so I think 11th grade was the first year that we gave an elective credit, and so it would show up as a math credit.
I think that's fabulous.
Can you, thanks for picking me up on that. And then can you speak to why it's credit, no credit, and some of the safeguards we talked about in terms of GPA and then passing?
Okay, so credit, no credit, just so I'm clear, are you asking about why they were given elective credit now, or
Instead of the GPA.
instead of GPA? Well, the GPA, we want it to be as a high school, because it does impact them when they go to college, when they're applying. And so if they have more credit, then it moves them in the ranking with the other students.
Okay, April, I guess one of the questions I have is, will that impact the kids that are probably juniors and seniors at high school level right now that haven't achieved it? I mean, so, see what I'm saying?
Well, we're saying that we are asking them not necessarily the 8th grade fall into the high school GPA, but that the juniors who took it as 8th graders and had decided that year to do an elective credit for this course, that would change, so on their transcripts it would show.
So that would
credit.
apply.
Yes.
We just want to make sure that we're not losing some of those at the 12th grade level because they won't hear it.
The only ones that might be that they already gone on.
And if they had gone on somewhere else and they come back and ask us for a,
Well, then it'll show up on their transcript, but if they don't contact us, please send me your transcript.
But it wouldn't adversely affect them on graduation.
No, it won't adversely affect them.
Just save money when it goes, when they go to college.
Or we've had some states where they transferred and then we take that. So we don't want that.
Thank you.
yeah, I know. So we have a motion with the second. If there's no further discussion, all in favor? Aye. Moving into old business. We have the interstate compact agreement.
Included in your board packet is an overview and a full copy of the Interstate Compact for Educational Opportunities for Military Children. The compact is an agreement among participating states to alleviate many of the school transition problems military families encounter. The compact addresses issues such as enrollment, student records, immunizations, placement, special education, services, absences related to deployment, extracurricular participation, and persistence to graduation. A copy of the Interstate Compact on Educational Opportunity will be provided to all administrative staff. We again have discussed that And we're also going to make that a required training module for all employees in the 2016 to 2017 school year. This has been shared previously in some cases, but we feel like this is a good place to start in terms of creating a strengthened overall language and approach among all employees. So I wanted to get that in front of the board. I encourage you to take time to look through that and let me know if you have any questions.
The interstate compact agreement, I think, is a very important document that's been placed in our board package, and I strongly recommend that each board member read it. There's some very good advice in there, and do we need a motion?
This is for information only, and we will keep you posted on our planning.
Mentoring program update, Amanda Wesley.
I have a teacher voice,
All right.
I just have a few numbers to update the board on how the mentoring program is going. Last year was the first year that we brought this back. Speaking with Diane Munley, she reminded me the goal last year was to have between 5 and 10 mentors. We really didn't know how it would go. We far exceeded that, which was awesome. So this year we had a goal to have 25 or more, which we thought was pretty reasonable. Right now we're at 26, so that's awesome. We actually have a training this Friday where we have 14 more mentors that are ready to go. We just have to go through the training. I think we have 8 that are going to be at that particular training. We are working really closely with Diane to improve some of that for next year, to streamline things and make it a little bit more quick for mentors to actually get placed with students. That way they're not waiting a super long time and we can get them in there with kids as soon as possible. So we're making some changes to improve for next year.
And we're not running out of kids for these mentors.
No, I wish that we did.
Well,
That'd be a great problem
what
to
are the
have.
qualifications for a mentor?
Basically, they volunteer, so that's awesome. They have to pass a background check at this point, and then they go through a short training with us where we talk about confidentiality, mandated reporting, just the nuts and bolts of the program, and then they mentor a kid. It's an eyes-on program, so there's somebody in the room. I think at K and E they meet in here, and there's just a counselor or a supervisor in the room.
And what do they mentor them on?
It depends on the kid. It really depends on the needs of the kids. So some kids need help with certain subjects. So maybe they need somebody to read with them or help them with their math homework. Sometimes kids just need somebody that's like on their side that they can just talk to about stuff that's going on at the high school. We see a lot of that. I have a mentor that comes to the high school every week and they throw a frisbee when it's nice outside. They play basketball and they just talk while they do that, which is a good male role model. So it just depends on what the needs of the kids are.
Okay, so at the elementary school level, the qualifications to help somebody with a math or a reading problem or that, where do we go with that?
Right. Well, what we do whenever the mentors are interested in becoming a mentor, they have a fact sheet that they fill out. And basically that just tells us what kind of hobbies they're into, some subjects that they feel they're strong in, some subjects they feel they're weak in. And then the counselors in each building get those fact sheets so that way we know our kids and we can place that mentor with a kid that matches them. So if I have a kid that really needs algebra help, I'm not going to place them with a mentor that says they're really not good in math. I'm going to try to place them with somebody that's stronger in math. So it's really just based on self-reporting from the mentor as far as what their areas that they're strong in. If that makes sense.
The good thing is with the team of 26 people, we've got a lot of people with different strengths and weaknesses.
Exactly.
I'd like to thank Colonel Clark for being one of the folks who got this ball rolling on the ground level. All the folks at Whiteman Air Force Base, they were Whiteman community supports this and all the personnel that's behind it.
Yeah, it really was a team effort with Amanda and Diane, and of course the volunteers from the base, but more than just the base. I mean, the program, as I understand it, has volunteers that aren't from Whiteman necessarily. So it's a community program all the way around. But like you, we're very proud of it.
And that's something that we're really working to expand is getting more community volunteers. I know at Whiteman, they're released from their duties to do this, whereas people in the community maybe don't have that luxury. But we're planning on going to different community events to kind of sell the program a little bit and get some people from the community involved as well.
I would just like to make sure that the mentors are placed with the appropriate child that needs the appropriate help.
Yeah, we do the best that we can, and there's trial and error sometimes.
And the good thing is the counselors know their strengths and weaknesses in these kids. I mean, they know.
We know our kids. Yeah, we don't know the mentors. Sometimes we have to get to know the mentors, but we know our kids. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Wesley.
National Math and Science Initiative update, Connie.
Welcome.
Thank you. I don't have a lot to update on. I still have not received any awarding of the grants. What I have had though is just yesterday, I believe it was, I got an email from another person with NIMSY, and they are going to do a conference call with myself and the counselors and possibly Dr. Wheeler to look at our master scheduling, to look at some opportunities to increase enrollment in some of those AP courses. As I told you, we will be having opportunities in science, math, English language arts, not related to this grant. Just received good word today that our Spanish will now be AP designated. So our upper level Spanish is going to be AP designated. So we have 2 classes now outside of this NIMSY grant that are going to be AP. So we're very excited about that. One of the things that I didn't share with you all, however, about this NIMSY grant that I in retrospect, it's important that you know, is support for AP programming doesn't just start at the high school. And so part of this NIMSY grant will also provide training for middle school and elementary. So it could be training for elementary all the way through high school if we get this grant. So that is some very important support for our kids and opportunities for our kids, and that is part of what this grant provides. So there will be some opportunities for some teachers to be involved with that. I love some people really excited about that. And I've had some conversations with administrators, and of course that's just conversations at this point. So, you know, we can't make any hard fast plans until we know what.
Is there any particular date on when this grant can be awarded?
We thought it was going to be in December, and it wasn't in December, and now, no, they have not told us. They understand that we're doing master scheduling now, and they understand the very significance in giving us that information. But right now, we're kind of planning 2 ways right now. You know, if we get the grant, this is what we're gonna do. If we don't get the grant, then maybe this is more where we're at. So we're kind of playing dual roles right now.
So when you say that you just got that news today, where did that come from?
Her name is Charlotte Carlisle, and she is another person that I haven't spoken with. So this is a different entity, and I don't know what the difference is there. I'm assuming it's because we made it to a next round. Was my assumption, but I don't know that. That is totally my assumption. But we are going to do a conference call with her, a WebEx, where we can share some documents and she can look at our master scheduling, and she's one of those that has a lot of practice in getting that done. And so we look forward to having
Is it a grant based on some of the documentation that provided by you all?
Yes.
So they overlooked that.
Do we have to keep so many kids in these classes?
That is part of it. They want course numbers, and part of the philosophy of the National Math and Science Institute is that
We don't hold kids back. We encourage kids, we push as many kids into these opportunities, these rigorous opportunities as possible. But it's not just pushing kids in, it's been providing phenomenal supports to help them learn and be successful within those classes. So the data that they have that shows their success rate in some very impoverished schools and some smaller schools and some larger schools, they just really have a range of data that shows their success in schools as they come in and provide the support. So looking forward to it. I mean, everything looks very promising, but we just can't say yes, we have to get it.
And then if we're awarded the grant, we'll utilize the personnel that we have as far as
And we will need some additional.
I see.
Yes.
Anything else?
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you. And that is, the grant amount is 750, is it somewhere in that neighborhood?
Yeah, they have never put a dollar amount on it, but numbers I have heard thrown around is somewhere 750,000, but they haven't said this is what it will be.
So it's definitely a substantial grant, and we're, like I said, we're keeping our fingers crossed.
And it is a multiple year grant as well. Yeah.
Historical financial overview.
So included in your packet is just an overview broken down several different ways on our historical budget numbers on revenues, expenditures by fund. I didn't want to necessarily take time to go through that tonight, but I wanted to get that in front of you for review. And that will be information that will be included in the budget preparation for FY17. The two obviously big unique aspects of Noster would be our impact aid, and the information in the report will quantify at this time, and it is kind of a first draft, but it quantifies the year in which that impact aid is received. And what we're also going to do is go back and try to account for the year in which that impact aid was drawn from. In some years we received impact aid is paid in arrears several years, but last year we were surprised to get an additional payment from 2011, which was unexpected. So we're doing some different coding in our SysFin with an additional 3-digit code on the end that will trace that money back to the year from which it originated. And the importance of that is when we look at the year in which it's reported, that could fluctuate, and we will see that fluctuation. But we want to try to go back and try to baseline this out in 2 different ways, because it is such an important aspect of how we go about doing business here. So take a look at that. We will be discussing that throughout the spring, but it is a good place to start in terms of getting a historical perspective. At the end of each fiscal year, the board secretary will complete the annual secretary of the board report, and that will account for all of our revenues, expenditures, a lot of very good information, but it's sometimes a little bit difficult to navigate through. And what this report does is that it takes about 12 years of historical data and it condenses it into charts that can make a little bit more sense in terms of trend data. So take a look at that, and like I said, we'll be speaking more about that in the months ahead. That would be one component. The second component, obviously, our debt service is unique to us, but in our capital projects funds, you'll see some fluctuation there, and that's not unique only to Noster, but you can see a lot of different expenditures based on some of the recent projects that were completed. So you'll see, total expenditures that vary, and that's basically, those are the two components that cause those variations.
Anything else?
No, ma'am.
Policy HH2 revision, first reading.
So for first reading, again, just for your information and feedback, we have a revision of policy HH2. That is the policy that provides guidance on teacher negotiating representatives. As you know, in the wrap up of last year, we did hear following several month process that involved a petition and a grievance and just kind of for lack of a better word, some uncharted territories and waters. We ended up coming to the point of recognition that we need to revise that policy and provide language that specifically sets out the exact process for following or for decertifying a union. The draft in front of you was partnership of Missouri School Boards Association. There's also some language in there from Missouri Ed Council with Dwayne Martin, and most recently it was revised by the District Legal Counsel, Gwen Mundorf, attorneys. So I think it's a good draft. It does provide obviously quite a bit of new language at the bottom, but again, the point of that is to provide a very clear path for administration to follow should teachers bring forward a petition to decertify. And we will plan to do any final revisions over the next month and bring that forward for second reading and vote next month. No, just first reading only tonight. That has been shared with our teacher, with Rebecca Smale, as well as Neva Allen, and I haven't asked for them to circulate that, but you're certainly more than welcome to do that, and their feedback has been requested. And they've actually had, that's been pretty quick, so I doubt that they've had time to do that. But we do have a month ahead, and we do welcome your feedback. I hope so.
Moving to executive session.
I make a motion to adjourn to executive session pursuant to RSMO 610.0213, 13, 9, and 1. Aye.
We'll come back about 7:25.
Okay.
You can't sleep tonight? Yeah, that's exactly what it'll be. Which is weird for me.
Oh, concessions done?
Yeah.